Albert, you were also in Minnesota. I'm always wondering this. Like, my mom always calls me, like if I'm in a training camp tour and she's like, "Where are you today?" And like you have to be careful. She's kind of in the know about the news, like the weather. Any kind of difficulties I'm going to run into. Does your mom kind of check up on you in that way, or are the
No,
fact that
I,
you're
I
in
mean,
your
I will use some of the drive to catch up with people. So sometimes that is my parents. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, because I have a good amount of time. I had a couple of long conversations on the phone with a couple of people I wanted to catch up with driving from Minnesota to Green Bay last night, and that's always good because it's like if you have a good conversation with somebody, it eats up an hour, and then you look down at the miles left, and you're like, oh, well, that was pretty productive, So
Yeah.
that's sort of what it is for me, But yeah, like my mom will ask me where I'm at and everything else, and then I think be concerned that I'm going to fall asleep at the wheel, and
Yes. That's a big one.
making sure that I'm properly rested and not driving somewhere that's going to take me too deep into the night.
I know. I always get the Connor. Just pull over. It's like, Mom, we have to make it to a Marriott. You don't understand,
Yeah,
or else my family can't go on vacation.
I'm just yeah, I'm very disciplined about where I stay.
So you were also in Eagan, Minnesota, not only to see our esteemed editor John Plume, but to check out JJ McCarthy, who I mean, in terms of like all the stuff that we've been discussing this offseason, not enough has been talked about JJ McCarthy. However, not enough could be discussed about him because we haven't really been able to see him, and
Yeah.
and now he's on the stage, and I don't know what were your thoughts?
Yeah, like I think just talking to people there, last year was really hard on him. And he went
Sure.
through a lot. And I think from January on, they've seen day over day, drill over drill improvement. And that's really all they could ask for. I think there were a lot of things that he lost in not even getting to practice last year. Like one of the things, like they've been looking for improvement for him in layering the ball, right? Like, so he had this reputation coming out of Michigan that everything comes out as a fastball. And, one of the guys was explaining to me like how playing on the scout team, like that's something you can work on when you're playing on the scout team as a rookie, like
Right.
where if he had just gotten the practice reps, it would be like, all right, like now because I'm playing against an NFL defense, I'm starting to learn what the windows look like and how I have to kind of put more touch on the ball to get it to a certain spot and how quickly that spot closes and how I have to anticipate into that spot. And so it was interesting having that conversation where like a lot of the things that would have happened naturally in October and November and December of last year, just natural quarterback growth stuff didn't happen because he didn't have the physical reps. So he had to work on that in April and May and June. And so, working through some of that, but they really like his work ethic. And I think one of the cool things to hear was like how he's starting to find his voice a little bit. And it's kind of a weird thing, I think, for young quarterbacks where it's like you come in and you're expected to be a leader, yet there are guys in the huddle who are 8 or 9 or 10 years older than you,
Yeah.
and you're trying to find your voice. But here's this guy over here, and he's got 3 kids, and he's on his last legs as a pro football player. And I have to make sure that guy, I'm giving him the best chance to win.
Yeah.
So I think like that was a big part of the spring too, is helping him find his voice. And I think that was one thing in talking to Kevin O'Connell that we talked about how kind of like it was a blessing in disguise, not bringing back Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, where they wanted to give the rest of the team that insurance policy of, hey, we were a 14-win team last year, and we can't throw this year overboard in the name of quarterback development. So we need to make sure that we've got insurance at that position, where if it doesn't work out with JJ, we still have other answers here. So we're going to give competition to him. So not having that, like, and the ability to like in it, like by way of that, giving the guy every first team rep allowed him to like really gain that voice. You know what I mean? Whereas like if he were in a competition with Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones right now, he wouldn't have had that chance, so he's coming along. They aren't expecting it to be perfect, but the main thing I think I came away with is like they think they've got a good enough team where they're not going to have to ask the world of him. So they're going to do things like running the ball, like the whole marriage of the run and pass thing that all the McVay and Shanahan people talk about, the quick game, the screen game. They're going to be able to generate plays for him where he can just go out and run the offense and he doesn't need to be Superman. And the team around him is really, really, really good.
Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get those draft boards ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, overreactions, and more. It's all happening with Yahoo Fantasy this year. The MMQB and myself are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first timer or a vet making your millionth league, guys, this is the greatest time of year. Yahoo is the best place to the way that they organize their drafts, the way that they help you sort all your players. I love every year logging into this. It's like coming home to one of your favorite things every year. It means friends, it means football, it means your draft party at your favorite restaurant, and Yahoo is always a part of that. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over the next 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League today at yahoofantasy.com/MMQB. That's yahoofantasy.com/MMQB. You're seeing that in a lot of places where it was Bryce Young or CJ Stroud during his first year. I think the successful offenses have been the ones that have almost taken away a quarterback's innate drive to become Superman, to take over the game. And it's just like, nope, this is exactly who we want you to throw the ball to. And you'll grow into that, right? We're just seeing Josh Allen grow into that. We're just seeing, I mean, Lamar Jackson's a little bit different, but we're just seeing Lamar Jackson grow into that.
I remember having this great conversation with Brian Daboll about that. It was Daboll and it was McDermott, and it was in Buffalo. It was, I think it was at their 2019 training camp. If I remember, I was at a joint practice they were having with the Panthers, and I was at their hotel outside Spartanburg, South Carolina, where the practices were. And I remember Daboll telling me that he had put together this reel because, you know, they were running an extension of the Patriot offense, this reel of Tom Brady completions, and it was screens and it was underneath routes and it was all of these layups. And it was just, they showed Josh the tape and they were like, take these. Like, look how many of these Tom Brady takes in every single game. This is the best quarterback ever. He's like, take them. Like there's no reason not to take all of these easy completions that we have for you. There'll be a time for you to go and pull the lever and be the best player and the best athlete on the field. But we have to convince you that you have to be able to take these. Cause look here, like, look at Tom Brady. Look how many easy completions he's taking. And I think that's something young quarterbacks who do have a lot of physical ability have to learn.
It was a big that is a game-changing realization, right? Yeah. And if McCarthy can grasp onto that early, I mean, God, then the Vikings can, take off a little bit quicker than I think we thought they could. But the other part that's, good in terms of JJ McCarthy needing to be here and probably in getting the confidence of the rest of his coaches and teammates, the fact that he showed up at 220. I mean, he's back at weight, which is a really hard thing to do when you have a catastrophic lower body injury and then you spend a lot of time rehabbing. Maybe you're not eating the same. You're not putting the same into your workout regimen. And so the fact that he's at a healthy 220, I think, is also a very big deal.
I think we also forget sometimes how young these guys are. I believe he was born in January of 2003.
Jesus.
If you look that up, like, I think that's what it is.
Didn't even have to deal with Y2K.
I mean, I think he was 20, like, going into the college football playoff his last year at Michigan. So, like, you got to remember that too. Like, there's that part of it where it's like, he's still growing into his body, So, there's some natural growth there that I think, obviously is going to happen.
Brian Flores has a big challenge just in terms of replicating a generational defense is harder than replicating a generational offense, especially the way that Minnesota did it last year, where they essentially just like cut the lines of communication on every offense and wreaked havoc on it. I was interested in, and you wrote a little bit about Jeff Okuda, who's popping up here again, and maybe that's the Ohio State in you, but
Hmm.
they're taking some flyers on guys, and I think that they're pointing to an area of need. Like they need one of these guys to step up and be an every down contributor, nearly an every down contributor at cornerback. What do you see in terms of the defense taking shape there,
Yeah.
and how do you feel like they're going to evolve on I'm not going to call it year one, but really the year one of the true Brian Flores scheme.
Yeah, I think the name of the game for Flo is being able to have flexibility to mix coverages and to disguise, and to be really aggressive with your front. And I think that starts it. It doesn't necessarily start with one great corner. It starts with balance across your secondary, and like that. There's no guy that you can point to and say like that's the guy we're going after. And so I think going and getting Isaiah Rodgers, who they think is a starting caliber player, from the Eagles, who obviously had the great story bouncing from the Colts to the Eagles and all of that, and winning a Super Bowl. And then, then Byron Murphy's established there now. And Jeff Okuda, the hope is that they can restore his confidence by leaning into what he's good at, where he's a little bit more of like I would say I'm not saying he's Richard Sherman, but he's more that style of corner. You know what I mean? Like where,
Right.
like if you play him a certain way, you can get more out of him. I think having that sort of balance and adding that sort of speed across the board, and it just, I think it's going to give Flo flexibility to be really aggressive with his front. And then you look at like Dallas Turner now coming on, and Van Ginkel, you can move him around. And so like if Dallas Turner emerges on the edge opposite Jonathan Grenard, well, now you got like a little bit of a rotation where Van Ginkel can play on the line, he can play off the line. And you add like the pass rush of Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave on the inside. It feels like they're going to have like a lot of optionality with what they do defensively, which is exactly what Flo is looking for. And I think to the credit of the front office, Kwesi and those guys, like they really have leaned into what the coaches want, and that really helps.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you? I mean, Brian Flores, he knows exactly what he wants, and he made a defense last year out of Blake Cashman and Andrew Van Ginkel,
Yeah.
and that's kind of why I brought up Okuda, is because I don't think it's ridiculous. And he's washed out in a couple places, but the
His
fact that
confidence is shot, I think, is a huge.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I think the fact that Flores is so good at just putting different pieces in different places, maybe you're asking more of certain guys, but a lot less of other guys. This is a place that maybe Okuda can find his footing, and you finally get that kind of diamond in the rough season out of him that a lot of teams have been hoping for since then.